Welcome back to Forerunners. I'm Kevin. He's Kurt. We're jumping right in. Here are some of the best places to be a surfer in the last week, and we're going to start with number 5, going back to Bali. Padang Padang. Believe this is either the second or third appearance in our last few episodes of Forerunners for Padang, and it's been a great run of surf for Indonesia over roughly the last month or so. Kurt, after a slowish July, I'll shout out that senior forecast manager Charlotte Perry called for a slow July in our Indo seasonal outlook. So great call there. But since then, since basically the end of July, it's just been pumping swell after swell. This particular swell was obviously really solid, had a lot of west in it too, which led to a little bit more energy wrapping in. So great day of surf there in Bali.
That's great. Let's talk about an awesome place in the world, the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Beautiful. Look at that afternoon sun. Well, this one's not as pretty, but yeah, Avon Pier, excuse me, one of the 8 piers we still have here on the Outer Banks. Nice little collection of sand on either side of the pier. This was during the Ernesto swell, and I heard some reports of some really great waves there. As you can see, a couple barrels, which we know we love. Heading down to the Sunshine State, Florida, New Smyrna Beach, actually one of the most consistent breaks on the East Coast. There's almost always a rideable wave here. This is also from the Ernesto swell, and they had some really good surf there. And you can see New Smyrna just really breaks those things up. It's super peaky. It's like a skate park. You know, you think about the Geiselmans that have come from there, and I think Dumphy lives down there now, and it's such a consistent, fun, rippable wave where those guys can do, airs and all that kind of stuff. It's just such a cool wave to watch. So shifting on over to Hawaii, I guess I get all of America here. So slightly different watercolor, a little bit different, and not the peaky bowls, but still bowls. So some nice storm here. Took a good track out of the South Pacific, really tracked pretty far north as well. So it delivered a nice run of waves for the Hawaiian Islands, and I hope you got something, because that's coming to an end here.
There we go. Number 1, going to go down to Western Australia, yelling up the hometown of Australian legend Taj Burrell, one of the prettier cams we have on Surfline, especially on days like this. One of the 8 cams we have in Western Australia. This is August 21st. Followed a day of onshores, actually, before cleaning up with light wind, and just a beautiful late winter day to close us out at number 1 for our top 5 this week. All right, and now that we have the fun stuff knocked out, we need to get a little bit more serious here, Kurt, for this week's Ask a Forecaster. It's an important and complex question, so Mark, please roll with it.
Hey, Surfline, who is the best surfer on the forecast team?
I think it's you, Kevin.
I told you it was an important question, right?
Oh,
very serious.
Gosh, there's been many internal fight over this exact topic, it seems like, over the years. Kind of, I guess, like, what do you define the best as? Is it the most documented? Because I think if that's what the case is, we definitely know who that is. You want to go first? You want me to say who I think?
Sure. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Jonathan Warren, who's a ripping surfer, and I will say probably the most documented surfer. But my favorite, the person I think is the best, is you, Kurt, but with a couple caveats. Number 1, it has to be a Frisco. 2, it has to be lefts. And then you by far the best.
Oh gosh, they say it's the one that's having the most fun, and that sounds like fun to me. Lefts and Frisco. Gosh. No, I was going to go, and I know I said you, Kevin, but that was just because we're on this together. I was going to go with our UK forecaster, Jamie Bates.
Oh yeah, good call.
Yeah, Jamie is, when he first started at Surfline, he was the reigning, I think it was the Masters Welsh champion.
Welsh champion. Yeah, good call.
So like, that would be my vote. But I mean, I think about this, and to your point, like, everybody kind of rips.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
we got a team
Watson's
full of surfers.
Yeah. Watson's got Florida strength. He can paddle.
Sleeveless Florida strength.
Sleeveless paddling. Sure. Charlie's got the style. John, we already talked about. Keaton rips.
Yeah.
Schaller
rips. Off
the bike, back in the water, just ripping. Like, and that's before we even get down to the Australian crew. So like, I don't know. We're kind of, I'm ready to have a surf off with anybody that wants to challenge us.
I'm pumped. Let's do it. All right. Okay. Well, while we're on the subject of world-class surfers here, Kurt, we recently caught up with St. Clementi's Kolohe Andino while he's touring with the 2% crew. Brothers, former and hopefully future CT surfer, multiple USA national champion. also one of the most followed, photographed, successful surfers on the planet. So Mark, let's check that interview out, please. So it looks like you've been all over the place lately. What have you been up to? Where did you just get back from? Where are you headed, or where are you right now? What's going on in your life?
Yeah, basically a lot's going on. I did the U.S. Open, and then that night left for basically like a it sounds like rock star-ish to say world tour, which I don't really like the term, but we made a surf movie, and we're just kind of showing it around the world. And we did 4 stops in Australia, and we did 5 stops in Japan, and now we're starting on the West Coast. So I'm up in Santa Cruz and making our way down to Solana Beach. It's really just a mishmash of people who I like. You have like Dimitri Polos and Taro Watanabe and Jet Schilling and a lot of Dane Matson and Noah Hill. So just kind of guys I thought would be sick and would be down. And obviously I have a lot of local kids like Hayden Rogers and Luke Weiler and Cole McCaffrey and stuff. But it's almost like a modern day Lost film in a way, just kind of like whoever gets clips gets to be in it.
That's killer. So who are the guys and the gals that are inspiring to you right now? Whether that, the guys and gals that came before you or this younger generation, who are the people that are really standing out to you at this point?
As far as in the water goes, I'm in an interesting stage of my life. People that inspire me are like really good dads and things like that.
Yeah. Awesome.
But in the water, obviously, like the work that like Griffin, Cole, and Crosby are doing, like it's pretty rad to see like the best surfers in the world at my home break. I feel like the roles have reversed, whereas like 6-7 years ago they were looking at me that way, and obviously had to humble myself with falling off tour and go, yeah, these are the best surfers in the world right here in front of my eyes. So I'm still super competitive and want to get back on tour, so it's cool to be inspired daily out in the water.
I'd love to see you back on tour. We'd love to see you back on tour. Are you looking to do Challenger Series events this fall, or what's the general plan?
Yeah, I'm gonna do them. I told myself like if I get a 5th or better at the U.S. Open, I'm gonna do the last 2. So goal is to make the tour, but if I get in the top 20 where I don't have to do the regionals next season, I'd be stoked to do that.
We've got the lowers event coming up, the Final 5. If you could craft the perfect lower swell for the Final 5, what would it look like in your eyes for the perfect conditions?
Usually the best days out there are like those days like in the westerly range of like lowers directions, so like in the low 200s. The right kind of comes from a little bit deeper, because sometimes it'll be a little bit more closed out if it's too south. So yeah, in the westerly range of numbers, and then that 4.5 at 16 or something, if that's what it's predicting, that's like kind of the best for lowers. Even the 4 at 15 is good too, a little bit more waves.
Awesome. And hey, if that came true, and we have something that looks reasonably close to that lining up at the beginning of the waiting period, if we had those ideal conditions, who would win, in your opinion?
I would think that if it was like those ideal, like that 4 to 5 foot classic lowers, or maybe even in the 6 foot range, I think John would be the guy, just for his power for sure. And then obviously the stamina of only having to surf potentially 2 to 3 heats. I think Caroline's just going to be the girl to beat kind of no matter what. I think what she did last year was like, she was surfing good, but like that's all day bread and butter for her. Like it almost looked like she was surfing at like 80%, and she won the title, kind of smashed everyone.
And anything else going on in San Clemente these days that has you excited or worried or stoked to be a dad, or anything else like that?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, it kind of laid me up with like the issue we got with the sand. I mean, it's interesting to come down to lowers, and I was down there like 2 days ago, and I was like, man, there's like 8 feet of beach down here, and there used to be like 50, 60 feet of beach. There used to be tents and barbecues and all this sort of stuff, when I was like 10 years old. And now you could barely drive a truck, through it. So it's an interesting time. I think it seems like people are raging against the machine, for lack of a better term. But got some sand over the spring, and it helped out a lot. So hopefully we can get some more.
Cool. Well, Kolohe, thank you for joining us. I know you're a busy man these days, both with dad duties and trying to keep up with getting in the water and attending premieres. So we appreciate you joining Forerunners.
No worries.
And yeah, we'll see, hopefully we'll see you out in the water sometime. All right, that was Kolohe Andino with the 2% crew. He mentioned his ideal conditions for lowers, Kurt. We do have the WSL Final 5 event coming up with the opening window or opening day of the event window next Friday, September the 6th. Don't have the biggest and most ideal looking forecast, but there are improving odds for a rippable day. That Final 5 probably is going to run on the opening day. Again, next Friday, the 6th. We've got a nice looking south-southwest swell coming up from a storm that's happening right now, and we've talked about it a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but I think we've liked what we've seen from the storm so far. Seas in the 25-foot range, 28-foot range so far. Well aimed at the U.S. West Coast and Southern California. So nice looking south-southwest swell coming up. What have you seen? I know it's forefront on your mind. Your concentration only on Southern California right now. You're not thinking about Frisco anymore.
As you're talking about lowers, I was like, man, I guess I wonder how uppers is going to be, because that's where I typically end up. No, I mean, as you look forward to this, like September's like always an interesting month, I think, in Southern California. I think back to some of the contests you've had there. You had that one crazy wind day. Remember where the wind switched offshore?
Offshore behind a thunderstorm,
yeah, behind a thunderstorm, and it just pumped and was so beautiful, like picturesque. Like if you'd taken a photo, you probably wouldn't have guessed that it was trestles, but or it was lowers. And I mean, just thinking through this, like it seems like when you talk about this contest, a lot of times it's the sets that you get, how consistent those are going to be, how many waves are going to be in the set, things like that are kind of where my head naturally goes. But I'm kind of nerdy in that aspect. So, I mean, what about you? What are your thoughts there on the swell, and maybe who do you got?
So we've got nice looking south-southwest swell. To be clear, we're thinking right now probably chest to head high on Friday the 6th. That's maybe a little bit overhead. I would say moderate consistency, average to slightly above average consistency, given the size of the storm and the way it's moved. So not a banger of a swell by any means, but just a fun, rippable swell. And at this point, looks like wind could do the thing where it stays light kind of all day. Kolohe mentioned that, where it kind of may go south for a little while in the morning, but then clean up. Even if it does get bumpy, just clean up in the afternoon and be glassy. So that'd be nice. It'd be good to see. My money's on John too. My money's on John, and I want Katie to win, but I think it's probably going to be Caroline. How about you?
Well, I feel like I cursed John in Tahiti, so I'm not sure I want to say him. Maybe I should say Jack in this X. So then, I'll say Jack, but then give a little wink and say, maybe John. And then in the women's, Katie surfing is just insane, and Caroline, the defending champ, gold medal winner, grew up in Florida for at least a part of the time. But I think I got to go Katie.
All right. Love it.
Yeah. So we mentioned there's not the biggest surf heading to to the WSL Finals, but there are big waves occurring in the world right now, and one of the hot spots that we've targeted is down in the Southern Ocean. Coming out of the Indian into the Southern Ocean, south of Australia. Lots of swell on the way there here over the next 7 to 10 days.
Yeah, we've got solid swells, periods of good conditions for the surf coast of Victoria. Should pretty easily be the best run of what has been a slow winter. If you check that QR code, you can actually check out our shorter to medium range outlook for Victoria and all the good surf coming up there.
And that storm tracking through there, or those series of storms tracking through there, you kind of follow that, and there's Tasmania, right? Tasmania is right smack in the middle there, and the question will be whether we get some good, just getting hammered. Whether there's going to be some windows of decent winds, for spots like Ship's Turns and some of the other, well-known waves that are there. But you can kind of follow that, and you keep going downstream, and we were talking about New Zealand, right?
Yep.
Like the West Coast there is just another spot that is very well positioned to get a lot of swell that's coming out of the Southern Ocean there. And the other spot that kind of piques my interest is one that's near and dear to you and probably John Warren's heart at this point.
Yeah, Fiji, obviously it always somewhat amazes me that Fiji is open to swells and storms that are way over in the Indian Ocean, then of course into the Southern Ocean. So very much like the Victoria Surf Coast, this is going to be the best run of surf of what has been a really slow season so far. So, really starting in the next few days and continuing all the way through probably the first week or so of September, just a nice run of medium to long period swells coming in. And days of good and occasionally great conditions. So really nice run of surf down in that neck of the world for the next 1 to 2 weeks. All right, that's it for the week. Thanks for tuning in. As always, we will be back in a couple weeks, won't we, Kurt? And for now, we're going to leave you with the trailer from the latest from the CI crew, Dumpster Diver 2, Electric Boogaloo. Oh, no, it's the team edit. Sorry. And Kurt, do you think we want to challenge the CI crew with the forecast team? I think we could
Challenge them in what? Surfing?
Probably not. That's probably a bad idea. Maybe forecasting. I think we could take that. Hopefully.
Yeah. Best out of 3.
Hit the QR code. You can watch the full feature too. You don't have to listen to us babble anymore. And yeah, it's going to feature some of the best surfing you'll see this week, probably this year, unless you come and watch a forecast crew out at Briscoe and Surfing Labs. Otherwise, see ya.